The views and opinions expressed on the following program may not necessarily reflect the views of the staff, management, or board of Hope Media Group and KSBJ. It's what's happening around us, in our town, suburb, city, in our community. It's Community Beat with Kim Kasi McKee on 89.3 KSBJ.
Well, hello and welcome to Community Beat, where we're keeping you tuned in to the topics that are impacting our local communities and helping them thrive. I'm your host, Kim Kasi McKee, and today we'll be talking about a great ministry with a huge heart for the incarcerated. Today's guests are Bill and Stephanie Everts, and Bill serves as the executive director of Less Than the Least Ministries. Well, good morning, Bill and Stephanie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Kim. Thanks for having us.
Morning, Kim. We're so glad to be here again.
It's a blessing to be back with you.
Well, we're going to jump right in. First of all, we've had you on the air before, and I understand from you and Stephanie, you had some response from that time.
We sure did. Yeah, we've had some people right after it went up on your site, the people saying, hey, how can I volunteer with Less Than the Least Ministries? And
we even got a call from at least one or two people that had been incarcerated, remembered Less Than the Least from when they were incarcerated, and then called us when they came back out and want to help out now.
Now, that is absolutely full circle, isn't it?
Amen.
It is, and we love that because nothing says hope so much as someone who's been where you've been, going through what you're going through, and come out the other side.
Well, Bill and Stephanie, there's some folks who perhaps did not get to hear that first interview that we did with you all. So we're going to just kind of review some of the things that we talked about. Bill, tell us, how did you become connected with this ministry?
Well, let me take you back to the turn of the century.
Okay.
When Less Than the Least Ministries got started, it was actually the heart of Dr. John Morgan at Sagemont Church, who said, we need to be doing something for the broken people who are incarcerated. And so he started Less Than the Least Ministries, but not as a direct part of the church, but rather as a 501c3 that was separate from the church, but supported by the church with volunteers and funding. First director was a man by the name of Zeke Young, and Zeke passed away last year. He stepped down as director, and David Gunter began as director of Less Than the Least Ministries. And I like to say that callings from the Lord start on the inside. Mm-hmm. And my calling to be part of Less Than the Least Ministries started on the inside. Not just on the inside of me, but when I was inside prison. Mm-hmm. David Gunter and Less Than the Least Ministries came to do services at the Rams unit, and I was incarcerated there. I used to be part of the worship team there, and I played guitar and sang. And so when they came in and did their praise and worship and their church services there, I would play guitar and sing along with them. And then when I got out in 2015, David Gunter took me by the hand and had me become part of the ministry. And when I was finally able to go back in after 18 months, that's what it was then. Now it's only 12 months. He helped me get certified as a volunteer to go through volunteer training and helped me get permission to go back in and took me back in as a functioning member of Less Than the Least Ministries as a volunteer inside prisons. And I went to the Ellis unit and Ramsey and Stringfellow and Plain State and Henley and Estelle and just lots of units. I can't even name them all. And then he passed away in 2022.
So, Bill, talking about full circle, you were an executive with IBM.
I was, yes, ma'am. I was responsible for their WebSphere product family, which was brand new, and in the launch year of 2000, had a $250,000 quota, had people working for me all over the world.
Wow.
And successful family man, church going dude, and
speaking of family of 6 children?
Yeah, between us we have 6. I have 4, she has 2.
Okay.
And I got stupid. Mm-hmm. Gave myself over to Satan and took a wrong turn and made some terrible choices and found myself on the wrong end of the law. Mm-hmm. I lost everything.
Wow.
Went to prison, and it was there. Mm-hmm. Some people say, I found Jesus when I was in prison,
Mm-hmm.
but actually Jesus isn't the one who was lost. I was.
Yes.
And he found me when I was in prison.
Wow.
And it sometimes takes that catastrophe,
Mm-hmm.
that hitting rock bottom before people get serious about looking up and changing their lives to be what they should be.
We always like to ask for success stories when we talk to ministries, but we can't have one stronger than yours. Here you are, the executive director of this ministry that was there for you when you were in prison. You're there singing and worshiping, and who knew that you would come out and not only be still connected, but become the lead for this ministry. And so what a beautiful celebration and a wonderful story.
Well, and never in my wildest dreams did I sit down and say, someday I'm going to be the executive director of Less Than the Least Ministries. Just
Right.
never even crossed my mind. Although, and I told this story last time we were here, there was a lady by the name of Sister Terry. And by the way, I stumbled upon her email address the other day and remembered this story that I had told you. She was there doing ministry at the Ramsey unit. And at that point in time, I wasn't on stage yet as a guitar player. I was on the setup crew. You said before it was quite the setup. The equipment had to be put away after every church service and then brought out for each church service. There's no air conditioning. It can get a little hot.
I can only imagine.
And it can get a little tiring. So at the end of the service, I'm ready to start putting things away. But all the men there are wanting to talk to Sister Terry. All that. So I'm waiting patiently. I think it was patiently. She came over to me and said, I want you to know, God told me to tell you that he sees the work that he honors.
Wow.
And she walked away, and one of the guys there that knew me said, man, she does not know you from Adam, and she just prophesied over you. And I thought that meant that my ministry would be coming back into prison ministry and doing ministry, which I did. There's a lot to this, and I am the only paid employee.
Wow.
Less Than Least Ministries runs very thin in terms of the dollars that they spend. They want as many dollars as possible to get donated to this ministry to go back into the prisons and not into corporate infrastructure.
Very lean.
Wow. Well, let's bring you in this discussion, Stephanie. Tell me about what your connection looks like. I mean, obviously you're married to Bill, but
Right.
a woman going into prisons, male prisons at that. What was that calling like for you?
I've always wanted to sing. I grew up, I was born with this song in my mouth. And every song that comes on the radio, I realized recently that I was one of those annoying people growing up, and I figured out why my sisters don't like me, because I'm just one of those people that just walks around singing all the time.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, that's annoying after a while. But so I had that desire always in my heart, and I was never successful commercially or out in the world.
Sure.
And it was only when I would come into worship or go to a worship team that there was any kind of success or openness, or it seemed like fulfillment. Yeah. And I met Bill right after, about 6 months after a divorce, and I'd been married for 30 years.
Wow.
And it was through a game that we were playing. I had no idea he was a Christian, had no idea he had anything to do with music, had no desire to go into any prisons. If somebody told me I would be serving in prisons in a few years, I would have told them they were out of their minds. There was no way I would be doing that. So just through our meeting and our finding that connection, like God definitely brought us together.
No doubt.
To each other. And one of my first experiences in a prison unit, you go in, you're thinking that it's going to be rough, it's going to be difficult, you're going to need protection. Oh my gosh, you don't know what to think.
Yeah.
And then you walk into this church service, and I'm telling you, if I could bring one of those church services out into the free world, that's the church I want to go to. The Spirit is alive and well in those churches.
Wow.
And that's my church.
Okay.
Honestly. So I went in with Bill and David, and they graciously allowed me to sing with them, like right off the bat. And I fell in love immediately. I knew from that moment that this was my calling, that this was the purpose for so much of the pain that I had been through in my life, was so that I could turn and help others with it through this ministry.
Wow.
Well, let me tell you, if I can, that
Yes.
first experience that she had at the Ellis unit was so powerful. The men at we weren't even, she wasn't even planned to sing this song. I was talking to the inmate keyboard player. We were talking about the church service that we had done at Cool Ministries Church
Yes.
in the Free World that morning. And I talked about how she sang You Say by Lauren Daigle. And he said, well, that's just 4 chords. We could play that song. And I said, no, David's got the set already set up. And David was eavesdropping. And he said, well, if you want to do that song, we can do that song. So we did it. We didn't have the chord charts. She didn't have the lyrics in front of her, nothing. She just went cold. And the response was so powerful that the men were up yelling, run it back, do it again, do it again. So we did the song a second time, and they flooded the altar on their faces, crying and pleading with Jesus. And I don't know how many men were led to Christ that day. But when we walked out of there, she said, I think I found my calling. Yeah. And I told her, that's never happened before. And she said, yeah,
I
right.
believe him.
Wow.
Well, then fast forward just a couple years ago, we were at the Ramsey unit. And we were doing a service there. And a man came up after the service and he said, I was wondering if you would do this song that you did at the Ellis unit. You Say. He said, I used to be at the Ellis unit and I saw that. And he said, that was one of the most moving moments in my walk with Jesus, and I want to hear you do that song again. I'm getting ready to go home. And so,
he's telling all the guys around him about the event and what happened in that service. So it was really to know that it wasn't just us. It wasn't just God telling me that was my calling, but that the impact for the men, which was the whole point of it anyway.
That's right. He's confirming your purpose there.
Exactly. So I love how God works.
So amazing.
For those that say he doesn't talk to us, that's how he talks to us.
Yes, absolutely. Well, if you're just tuning in, we are speaking with Bill and Stephanie Everts, who are with Less Than the Least Prison Ministries. We're so excited about all of the wonderful things that they've been able to do even since we last talked to them. So, Bill, if you will, just share a few highlights for what's been happening this year and what's on the horizon.
We have really been blessed. We've been doing a lot of baptisms. And, it's interesting because in the Free World Church we go and they baptize 2 or 3 people and they think, this has been wonderful. Typically, when we do baptisms at Plain State, and we do those every quarter, we have 75 women that we baptize.
Amazing.
And then, we do that 4 times a year. We've done baptisms. We started doing these Spanish services at the Ramsey unit. That was new for us just towards the end of last year. And we baptized men there. We did baptisms at the Stiles unit when we did Clemens trustee camp too, when we did services there. So the baptisms have been a big thing for us. We also have this class for new Christians called Starting Point. It's great to go in and lead people to Christ, but it feels like that shouldn't be the end of the journey.
Yeah, right. Okay, you're on your own.
Yeah, so we want to do some discipleship, and we got this class called Starting Point that was approved by the Rehabilitation Programs Division. And it's got a nice book that has memory verses and discussion questions and exercises for them to do. And we started that at the Plain State Women's Facility in Dayton last year. And now it's expanded to where we do that class 4 times a year there. We do it 4 times a year at the Pam Lichner State Jail, which is here in Humble. We also do it at the Clemens Trustee Camp a couple times a year. I mean, each of those books costs us $8.90. So we've spent over $2,000 just on the books. And then we do a graduation ceremony for them and buy them some cookies or cake and some tea, so they can enjoy that.
Of course.
They love that. So that's something that we've been doing, and we're now in development for a follow-on class to that called the 12th Round, where the idea is to be an overcomer, to be a Christian for the long haul. And what does it mean, to prepare for the wiles of the devil, be able to fight that battle, and that our battle isn't with the other person that we think it is, but it's in the heavenly places, right?
Yes.
And how to fight those battles. So that's a new class that we're in development right now. And, we started those Spanish classes at Ramsey. Now we're doing Spanish services at the Plain State unit as well. And we want to expand our Spanish services at Ramsey to include their trustee camp there. So we need some Spanish-speaking volunteers.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that.
We need some more people who can speak Spanish to volunteer for that. As an outcropping of all of our services, one of the things that we do there is we hand out these forms. They're called PALs, which stands for prayers and letters, where the inmates can fill out what their prayer requests are.
Oh, love it.
And then we have free world people who partner with them and pray over those requests and then write to them to let them know, hey, I'm praying for you specifically. And you'd be amazed at the number of letters that we get back that say, I asked for this prayer request and God answered it. And to see that full circle is amazing.
And we have volunteers at several different churches that answer these PALS requests. It's not that one group of people brings them in and takes them. It's just people all over the Houston area churches, actually. Yeah,
so for people who might have a heart for the incarcerated but don't want to go in, it's a great way to participate and take part in that. And we need both English and Spanish-speaking people for that as well. And then we provide study Bibles, so that they have a physical Bible in their hands. We've spent over $8,000 this year on study Bibles. We've sent some 315 study Bibles back in.
Wow.
We also provide assistance to offenders when they get out.
Okay.
Getting started again can be very difficult.
Absolutely.
And
daunting.
we've spent nearly $5,000 this year on ex-offender assistance with things like moving expenses, getting a TWIC card, getting a driver's license, getting DOT certification or PPE, personal protection equipment for a job that they had. Those kinds of things, getting an automobile fixed, get automobiles. We help in any way that we can in getting them started when they get back out.
And the advantage of actually going into units and serving inside the unit is that by the time that someone does get out and they're requesting help from us, we have a pretty good idea of who that person is. We've been serving with them inside prison for a while, and now they're out and they just need a little help.
Yeah, and there are a lot of inmates involved in that. And we've done so far this year almost 200 services and classes with over 9,500 inmates attending and some 620 decisions for Jesus.
Wow.
So, there are a lot of inmates involved. And one recent one, I'm going to, if I can, I'm going to give him a shout out. His name is Christopher Kelly. And Chris was at the Clemens Trustee Camp 2 in Angleton when we did a crusade, a 3-day event, revival there last year. And he was one of our inmate crew members. We had some 10, 11 guys that were inmates there that were helping us with setup and getting water and attending to volunteers and all that. And a lot of them, they would do something, they'd go sit down, and if you needed some help, you'd go find them. Not Chris. He was up all the time. Oh, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? And just running everywhere. And he just got out recently.
With a smile.
Yeah, with a smile. With a smile. Beautiful. He just got out recently, and we've been providing a little bit of help to him. And he's going to be at our event coming up here later this month.
Speaking of that event, tell us about it.
We are. This is going to be a hoot. I can show my age a little bit.
Right?
Literally, yeah, it is. The name of the event, the fall benefit, is God Loves Laughter, and we could sure use it.
We sure could.
It's starring family-friendly comedian Fred Klett. Fred is hilarious. I'm a big fanboy of Fred, and I know there are a lot of fans of his in the Houston area. They've got their own fan club even.
Yep.
And so some of them will be coming. And it's going to be on Friday night, October 27th. Doors open at 6 o'clock. The show will start at 7. We have a lot of different ticketing options. If you go to lessthantheleast.org, there's a place you can click on to get tickets and information. We have sponsorships available. They get preferred seating and a meet and greet with Fred, an autograph photo. They can get their company logo and website linked on our event page. Tickets, general admission tickets are $35. And I have a special promo code, KSBJ10, for 10% off. So any of your listeners that want to get tickets, put in the promo code KSBJ10, and get 10% off your tickets on Cassie McKee.
Okay. So no doubt this is going to be one of the ways people can support the ongoing work
Absolutely.
of Less Than the Least Ministries.
That's right. And if you can't come, you can go to that website and click on that, and there's a place where you can donate. We've had some people doing that already, just donating to support the ministry, because these things all take money. We donate clothing and hygiene supplies for inmates who are in there. It's one thing to go in and preach Christ. It's another to go in and be Christ.
Right.
Yes.
And these prisons are not air conditioned. And if you don't have family financial support, then you don't get any deodorant. You don't get any shampoo. The soap you get is about half the size of a hotel bar of soap, and you get 5 of those a week. Some units give you 7, and you get one very small tube of toothpaste, and that's it.
Try to imagine the summer we've just been through with no deodorant.
Right. Absolutely. So is that something that organizations can do, like host drives?
Absolutely.
For you to have supplies, toiletries, basics?
That's correct. And that information's on our website, or they can send us an email at info@lessthantheleast.org and say, hey, we'd like to partner with you on this.
So, Bill, tell us, how can people connect with you, whether it's a person who has a loved one that is incarcerated, maybe they're about to come out and they want to make sure they have that support system, or a person that's listening that's saying, wow, I want to connect and go into the prisons. I want to connect with this ministry. I want to financially support. What's the best way for people to do that?
Well, for people who are in the free world,
yes,
you can give us a call.
Okay.
At 832-447-1231. That's 832-447-1231. You can send us an email, info@lessthantheleast.org. Or if you're incarcerated and can't do either of those things, you can write us at 9659 North Sam Houston Parkway East, Suite 150, #231, Humble, Texas, 77396. That's 9659 North Sam Houston Parkway East, Suite 150, #231, Humble, Texas, 77396. And right now, I mean, we're looking for people that can volunteer with us, someone that can help pool our volunteers together and keep track of who's going where, and keep track of our statistics
all the
and
logistics.
all that. The Pam Litchner State Jail that's here in Humble, they're looking for a volunteer that can help with office work, to help the chaplain. And those people are called Certified Volunteer Chaplains Assistants. It sounds like it's very daunting, but it's not really all that. But there is a process to go through, and we'll help anybody that's got some office work experience and some time on their hands. We'll help them get the training that they need to do to be able to do that. We're also looking for people who do worship music. The Clemens Trustee Camp in Brazoria have asked us to take over all of their church services. And we have a preacher, his name is Sam Miller, who's tasked with doing that. And he's looking for people that will want to be on a worship team to help provide worship music.
The need for Spanish-speaking volunteers has grown exponentially this year.
Well, and they had a problem in TDCJ. They had some Spanish services that didn't have volunteers, and the gangs kind of moved in and started taking over.
Okay.
And so TDCJ said, all right, we're not going to allow any more Spanish services without a volunteer.
Okay.
And so that meant that they needed more Spanish-speaking volunteers, and we're trying to fill that gap as many places as we can. Yeah. We're also expanding our ministry. We're primarily in the southern regions of Texas. That's regions 1 and 3. We're kind of expanding in the Dallas area. We have a couple volunteers up there that are going to open up that region. So if you've got some contacts and looking in the Dallas area, we're interested in partnering with you to help us.
Awesome. So is there anything else, Bill, that we need to make sure we cover?
Absolutely. We just recently appointed a new person as our social media director. His name is Jason Hill. And social media was kind of an afterthought with Less Than the Least Ministries, and it was kind of personalized. And as I mentioned, David Gunter passed away. Facebook likes to have everything attached to a person. And when he passed away, the ministry Facebook page was memorialized by Facebook, so that we weren't able to make any posts to it anymore. So we needed to get the social media aspect of our ministry under control and branded properly and set in a more corporate state, if you will. And Jason Hill has agreed to do that. I've known Jason for a number of years. He's another person who used to be on the inside. I've watched him grow his company and do videos and audio for social media. And so it was really an easy decision to who to tap for that. And
I'm thinking of the passage where Jesus says, when I was in prison, you visited me. And
absolutely. Yeah, that is one of the founding principles behind Less Than the Least Ministries, because he said, verily, as you've done it to the least of these, my brethren, you've done it to me.
Yes.
And then we also lean on Hebrews, where it says, remember those in prison as though you were there with them.
And remembering that these are our brothers and sisters. These are simply people that have made a mistake. These are people's sons and daughters, mothers and fathers. We're there to love them. We're no better than them. We're not there to lord it over anybody. And that's why I love the name of the ministry, Less Than the Least. It keeps us remembering that we're nobody. And the minute that we start thinking that we're something and that it's us that's making a difference, then that's when we start having a problem, because it's all God. We're just a tool. Sometimes I'm a hammer, sometimes I'm a nail, but I'm just a tool of God.
And Mike Tyson was on Tucker Carlson not too long ago. And he said something very profound. He said, sometimes when I think I'm somebody, people will say something and I get offended. But then I remember that I'm nobody and it doesn't.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
It is, isn't it? Because that really needs to be our frame of mind.
That's right.
And the other thing to keep in mind is that people who are in prison, most of the time, don't stay there.
That's right.
At some point, they come home.
That's right.
And our goal is to help men and women who are incarcerated find the light of Jesus, learn to walk with Jesus, and come back to society as contributing members of society, as loving family members, fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, whatever the case may be, as walking faithful Christians. That's our goal.
That's awesome. Well, once again, huge thanks to you, Bill and Stephanie Everts, for the wonderful work that you are doing in prison ministry. So we will certainly continue to pray for your efforts.
Thank you, Kim, and KSBJ. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you October 27th, Friday night at God Loves Laughter, and we could sure use it at United City Church in Humble, lessonleast.org for tickets.
Yeah, come join us.
Yeah.
All right. And as always, thank you to our wonderful audience for joining us, and we hope you'll join us again next week for another edition of Community Beat. I'm Kim Kasi McKee on 89.3 KSVJ.
Thanks for joining us for Community Beat with Kim Kasi McKee. Join us every Saturday morning at 5:30 on 89.3 KSBJ.